Thank you for listening to Lone Star Community Radio. This program was broadcasted and recorded live from the LSCR studios in downtown Conroe, Texas. Lone Star Community Radio is supported by listeners like you. Donate and sponsor today. For more information on getting involved with Lone Star Community Radio, contact us at lscrstudios@gmail.com or visit us online at www.irlonestar.com.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. I'm Rick Schissler. I'm your host. I'm a Silver Fox advisor and the founder of OneBestConsult.com. Today, we are broadcasting live from the studios of Lone Star Community Radio, which is located, the studio is in downtown Conroe, Texas, on the first floor of City Hall. Lone Star Community Radio has been around almost 15 years now, broadcasting the best of what is happening in the Montgomery County community. All types of shows, and I encourage you to check out their website. It's real easy. Just go to lonestarcommunityradio.com and you can check it out. And again, all kinds of programming related to the community, from sports to veterans, neighborhoods, what's going on, but some real good quality shows, which I hope the Weekly Business Hour is one of those. A quick thought is I've started off the shows over the past, about 6 months. I give you a quick thought of what's happening in Washington and how it may impact us. I guess the big news right now, is peace in the Middle East. Always tenuous. Apparently, historically, it's always been that way for thousands of years. But there's a lot of wonderful things happening there. In fact, right now, with the release of hostages, the question for you as a businessman, what impact, if any, will what's going on in the Middle East have on your business? And most small businesses are going to say, well, I don't have a direct connection. I don't import products from there. I don't sell products or services into that part of the world. But let me tell you one thing. The Middle East is such a volatile thing that there are many people, many of your customers, I submit, that mentally it weighs on them when things are not going well there. And there's high degree of concern by a few people of what's going to happen. Is it going to start World War III or something like that? And I think recently, 2 months now, the bombing in Iran. I know people got concerned. You can't help but get concerned what's going to happen next. So keep that in mind. It may not directly impact you, but your customers may have some doubts in their mind. And sometimes when someone is doubting something, maybe not directly related to your relationship with them, they're slow to spend. They cut back on things. They kind of cover up, I call it, withdraw. And so it can impact your business. And there are ways to counter it, and that's up to you. But be positive, present that image in all your advertising, all your marketing, very positive. Because I'll tell you, outside in the world today and any day from where I come from, there's always challenges that we, if we allow, can weigh on us and affect decisions that we are making in our businesses. I want to remind you that the show is broadcast live on YouTube. Please join us on the Weekly Business Hour page. You can watch as well as listen to the program. And a reminder, my email address, Rick, R-I-C-K, at irlonestar.com. Or you can call me at 832-699-2132. What are you going to talk to me about? Talk to me about your business. Talk about ideas about this show. Talk about if you've got a constructive criticism, anything you want to talk about. In fact, we have a segment today where we received an email with a question from one of our listeners, and we're going to talk about it on the air. The key thing is I always respond. When you contact me, you do get a response. And I always enjoy discussing your challenges in business. That's what I do with my background and experience. Well, now let's get to the real show. And the real show is talking about business. And today we are really blessed to have Mr. Aaron Cox, who is IMO certified, president and CEO of the Woodlands Chamber of Commerce. Welcome, Aaron.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's good to be here.
Well, I always have things that kind of trip me up, and IOM tripped me up. I was preparing for the show, and I Googled IOM. I said, I'm not familiar with that abbreviation or those initials, and it took me all over the place. And only when I drilled down in your LinkedIn, I think that I did find out. But it's slang on the internet, on messaging. But when I got down to your LinkedIn, I found out what it is, and it's an impressive program for you to have gone through.
Sure.
What was the main thing you walked away from when you graduated from IOM?
Sure. So IOM is the Institute for Organizational Management. It's a program of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation. It's kind of like Chamber University. There are 4 locations across the country, and many of us commit 96 hours to go and learn about chambers of commerce, chamber operations, business issues, things that are going to impact business and how they're impacting. But most of all, to be operationally sound as a chamber of commerce. And as I think about it, my years at Institute, when I came back and finished up, there were a lot of things that I took away. The biggest one, though, was that just like every business leader, every particularly small business in the world, budget matters. You have to be incredibly strategic and cognizant of how you're doing relative to budget, because that's what's going to help you to make all things go. We learned about marketing. We talked about strategies in membership. We talked about issues and how to serve the business community as great communicators with our elected officials. But I think that was one of my big ones, is that, if the money doesn't flow, then we don't go.
Great expression. Well, I noticed through your LinkedIn, your one sentence that you wrote to describe you is that you're skilled, not-for-profit professional working to make a difference in teams and the community.
Absolutely.
Teams, interesting. What is that? How does that relate to the work at the chamber?
We are a team. We are a team that is serving our local business community. And when you look at the dynamics of a team, we all have a role. We all have a part to play. And when we can bring those together cohesively and truly strategically, we can serve with excellence. And so I've had a long career and have prided myself on being a team guy, being a partner, being someone that both, you can rely on, and that can either, work with folks and rely on them in their areas of specialty. But when not, coach them up so that they can be most effective. The bottom line is that we all can't do everything, and we're not called, hired, or appointed to do everything. We have a job. Nobody asks a quarterback to make a tackle, right? Nobody asks the defensive back to block. And so you have to understand your role, do your role, and execute well. And then when you can bring all of that together, you can have lots of success.
I have to suspect that building teams in a chamber environment, which is nonprofit, typically lots of volunteers, you hope, but building teams with volunteers has got to be different than in a for-profit business.
Oh, absolutely. I think, internally, it's not much different. We all have to have our roles. We have to understand that we can't operate in silos, that everything that one does depends on the other, and that we are connected, and that tissue that connects us has to be strong. And we have to have great processes to flow between one another and make sure that we're delivering the things that we have promised. But then when you take that a step further and you're gathering those volunteers around, it's understanding their why, and not only just the job, but why they are there. What is it that they want to get out of it? But also how to really kind of launch them into service, prepared, understanding the mission. And in different venues, I always talk about the why, because you look at a not-for-profit, we're governed by volunteer boards of directors. As we recruit those board members, very often people will recruit the local CPA to a chamber board and say, So glad you're here. We want to make you the treasurer. Well, their why to come to a chamber board may not be to be the treasurer. They get to do numbers and budgets and spreadsheets and all that all day, every day. They might want to plan a gala. They may want to be on the golf committee. And so understanding why they are connecting with you and where they want to be helps you to put them in the right position to be successful as a volunteer. They're not making typically a career decision. They are making a volunteer decision. And so they're engaging at a place where they want to be fulfilled, where they want to give something to people. Now, some may show up and go, yes, that's my expertise. I live in that. I love it. And all I want to do is serve this nonprofit with the knowledge and skills that I have. But some may come and say, you know what, I just want to do something different. I see an opportunity to branch out. And so we understand those, but then, having the same type of preparation and organization and then execution with volunteers is critical as well.
It sounds like I volunteer, at least in your organization. I can get some education and some learning. That's what I was when I heard you. That was kind of coming out to me, that being part of the chamber, not only as a member but as a volunteer, can strengthen my abilities in certain areas, and I think that's really, really cool.
Absolutely, and I look at it from a chamber perspective because that's where I sit. But every volunteer opportunity that we get allows us that chance to be a part of something bigger, which is another critical element of being an effective team and an effective teammate, right? You have to understand that it's bigger than you. And so whether you're volunteering at the chamber, the bigger thing is we are serving this business community to make them better, stronger, and more resilient. When you look at other organizations, you look at the Montgomery County Food Bank, or you look at Community Assistance Center, we are going into something larger than ourselves to be a part, the hands and feet, to reach out to those who might be in need in a certain area, to raise dollars to make sure that we decrease heart disease or cancer. But it's something bigger than us. And I think that is an important thing to note when volunteers get a lot out of doing what they do. And like I said, people do it for their own reasons. But generally speaking, when you talk to somebody, even those who really didn't know quite what to expect when they walk into a volunteer opportunity, many of them walk away and go, I learned a whole lot more than what I thought I was going to do. I got more out of this than I thought I would in terms of putting in.
Yeah, I suspect that the normal take when I volunteer is, what skills, what can I do to help? I want to invest some of my time, but I don't really think about what I might take away as far as learning skills that might help me out in the business world,
sure,
or whatnot, depending on where I come from. So I find that is a valuable piece of information and a valuable part of being a volunteer, particularly in the Chamber of Commerce. The truth be told, I've been involved in nonprofits personally and been on boards and been volunteer and all that, and I never really thought about that aspect.
Sure.
It's about raising money. It's about those objectives, but getting there, I can strengthen myself, and if I have a team, strengthen those individuals.
Absolutely.
By developing those skills.
Sure. And, the other thing that we pride ourselves on in terms of our volunteer opportunities is the connectivity to other people. Very often folks just, they look at chambers and this kind of view it in the eyes of networking. Everything
right.
is, well, networking is great. Having a network is awesome. But what we look at is connectivity. And if we are truly connected to one another, that means that we have a relationship a little deeper than just networking. It's a little more than us just trading a business card, because when you get into a relationship, there are other things. There are understanding, there's trust, there's compassion. And so when you look at that on a larger scale and you walk that road of volunteerism with others around you, you deepen those relationships, you build that connection. And so when you say, oh my goodness, there's a hole in my roof, you're not going to go to the yellow pages. You're going to go to the connection. You're going to go to the relationship and go, I know you. I trust you. I've heard the work that you do. You've shared with me the challenges that you've had, and we've celebrated the successes that you've had in your industry because of our proximity. And I know that you can get that done. So now I'm going to give you a call. And that's the key to it, is from a chamber perspective, building those connections and building those relationships so that not only are our businesses building, they're building one another. Because when they walk into a new space and it's a wonderful place and they go, I got to have signs, they know who to call. When they start talking about, I'm going to need, whether it's cleaning services or carpets or computers or whatever, they have a friend that they can reach out to. And that's really important.
Yeah, those kind of connections. I happen to be real big on building relationships with vendors and people that I need in business or personally.
For sure.
And it's really interesting. Sometimes it gets hard to do, but if you have the ability to have inside information based on a relationship before you ever do business together, what a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is, and I'm sure this is a basic question you've probably heard many, many times, but why should local businesses support the chamber?
There are tons of reasons why businesses should support the Chamber of Commerce. I think one, it is the place where business convenes, right? We are the neutral ground where people can come from all backgrounds, from all business types, and truly connect with one another and understand. I think a lot of the reasons, though, they're the litany of things that you see on a website, that you see in the mailers and the newsletters and all that stuff. I think the work of the chamber why people need to support is kind of the stuff that doesn't get seen. Business advocacy. When our businesses are doing their business, we're doing our business, which is fighting to protect their interests. That's the big reason why we're there. So whether it's a small thing, talking about, parking space sizes or a city ordinance, to the big things of having a say in, with our elected officials in Washington, D.C., to say we need to find solutions to not, to whatever issue it is, to not impact our local businesses. We're going to have that voice, and we're going to be watching that all day, every day, to be sure. So I think, the advocacy component is critical. I think the things that we do kind of behind the scenes to convene people and collaborate to make sure that our communities are strong is another reason why folks should be supporting. The little unseen things, being a support to our local municipalities in efforts that they have, whether it be to, work on infrastructure projects and helping to tell the story as to why we need to do that, to promoting a community festival where we can bring everyone together. We are really blessed in the Woodlands area, but I think across Montgomery County that we still have a very strong sense of community. People know their neighbors, people care about their neighbors. And the chamber's work to help to continue to facilitate that, because as we have new people move in, as we have other folks that come from far and wide, whether it be to shop or to visit or whatever, to help share with them how our community does it, who our community is, and why it's such a great thing, and to help acclimate them to that. That's an important role. But we don't really get a lot of credit for that, or, don't put it on a banner. But those are the things. I think it's the behind the scenes, and then the forward facing of, it's just a great way to help promote the local economy, keep the local economy strong, and do business with people in your own community. I believe that when we look at our local business community in the Woodlands area, and then across Montgomery County, the greater we can build those connections, build those relationships so that we're doing business with one another, we make our community that much stronger. We make ourselves that much more resilient. When tough times hit everywhere, we're going to be the last to experience that, because I'm not worried where to do X, Y, or Z. I can go down the street and do it. And I think as a chamber, not only do we have to preach that message, we have to model that message. And so we do. We work closely with our chamber partners all across the county, with Scott and the team here in Conroe to Mark over in East County. We are meeting and talking and going, what's going on in your part of the world? How can we work together to facilitate? What do we do to make sure that our community is strong?
You bring up a couple of things, and in my take, because I've been a member of a number of chambers over the years as I moved around in business and so on and so forth. And one of the things I see that being a member of a chamber, which I happen to believe is very important, is it helps you build a framework for your business. If you connect to the chamber, you participate to some degree, volunteer, whatever, but you begin to have part of your framework. You build a framework of your business, strong foundation, all the things. But the chambers can be a key component and can help you build that framework. I mean, they give you direction. They can provide important pieces to make you have a better, more successful business. And the other thing that I tell people, and it's interesting when they utilize, it's a place of resources.
Yes.
That you can literally pick up the phone and call and say, I've got this issue. Is somebody there kind of give me an idea or tell me about somebody that might be able to help me,
Yes.
i.e. one of the other members or whatever. It's funny when you get that message across to people. It's that sometimes people are slow to do that, but it's there. You're a member of the chamber. You have access to all those resources.
Absolutely. That is, another one of those key components as to why, membership matters, is that if we don't know, we typically know who does and where to go. It's a place of resource, not only just on the frequently asked question or, I'm stuck. It's also forward facing and forward looking and going, here are the things that are to come. How are we going to navigate this? On November 7th of this year, we will have our Woodlands Area Business Summit. Well, it's called the Woodlands Area Business Summit because we're the Woodlands Area Chamber of Commerce, but it's open to anybody in Montgomery and Harris County. We want our small and medium businesses, our business leaders to come together on that day. And the reason I love that program so much is because it's doing exactly what you're talking about, bringing together those experts to make things happen, but they're all local folks. We don't go outside and bring in a bunch of consultants from all around the world to speak to the group and then say, okay, I'm going back to a faraway land. You can pay me a nice fee to come and see you. No, we have the expertise here. And so we're bringing those folks together and allowing them to teach the classes. So now when you walk away and go, I have a question about X, or I need to follow up with that speaker, you pick up the phone, you shoot an email, or you grab lunch or coffee somewhere local. And we're going to talk about those challenges that are coming down. How do we navigate artificial intelligence? Everybody's talking AI. Well, we have experts right here in our area that understand it. They live in that world. So we're going to talk about AI marketing and what all the things that are around that. Incredible for small businesses because you're getting essentially, a couple of hours of free consulting, on AI marketing and AI marketing trends and how to engage from a very basic level on up, where you can implement that in your building, save time, save money, do a lot of those things. We're going to talk about strategies for growth. We're going to talk about, how do you continue to grow in uncertain times? In your open, you talked about uncertainty and the impacts and essentially all of those things that go on around the globe. That's what it leads to. It leads to, should I spend? Should I save? Should I make the move? Should I not? So having real business leaders from our community who have done this, talk about what are some of those strategies you can use to continue to grow in these times that are a little bit uncertain. And, these are some of them, their only experience is, 2008, the 20 teens. And that is their point of reference, coupled with someone who's been in business from the 70s and 80s and have seen the ebbs and flows at their best and at their worst, right? So hearing those lessons learned and talking to through those things, but everything else down to, what's new in sales. That's everybody needs to sell. Everybody's selling. But talking about strategy, talking about, some of the things that are changing in that world, but really giving them that extra, because day to day, particularly with our small business leaders and even a lot of our medium-sized businesses, they don't have the time, travel, opportunity, and budget to go to conferences and conventions. And they're not even thinking about that, right? They're talking about making payroll. They're thinking about, is my stuff going to get stuck on a ship in the port, and how much I'm going to have to pay to get it off right now. And so this is that moment for them to take a breath and just learn and grow themselves as professionals and as leaders.
Yeah, it's an amazing resources are just, it's one of the things I think people really don't consider, at least in my experience, what I've seen, that the chamber can be a wonderful, wonderful resource, particularly for small businesses. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break now. I hope you'll stay with us. When we come back, we're going to talk to Aaron a little bit more about his personal approach in management and what are some of the keys to his success. So please stay with us, and we'll be right back with you.
Every Friday, tune into Texas Ticket on Conroe's 104.5 and 106.1 FM with Armando Nino of Gold Lake Conroe, focusing on Montgomery County area events and places. Get a feel of the Texas spirit at the event, paired with guest and vendor interviews, event coverage, and ticket giveaways, and so much more. Join us Fridays and punch your Texas ticket. For more information on the show, visit irlonestar.com/Texas Ticket.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is Rick Schissler. I'm the host of the Weekly Business Hour, and we've been having a conversation today from Aaron Cox, who is the president and CEO of the Woodlands Chamber of Commerce. And I hope you've had a chance to listen, and if you want to re-listen at some point down the road, you can find us. Just go to the Weekly Business Hour page, Facebook, YouTube, all across social media, and the show is typically posted several days after it's gone live. So keep that in mind, because oftentimes you pick up a lot or some key thing by listening the second time. So please be aware, the Weekly Business Hour page out there on social media. Well, Aaron, we've talked about the chamber itself, the Woodlands Area Chamber and chambers and the value to people being joining and becoming a member. Let's talk about yourself. You've had a long career when we look through your resume, so to speak, and it's been in this type of work primarily.
Yes,
is what I glean from it. But could you share with us, though, as on the business side, so to speak, what has been the key to your success?
You know, if I look back over it, there've been a couple of things. One early on is connecting and building with people who know more than I do, who know better than I do, and learning from them. No jealousy, no envy, no standoffishness. It's connect with them and help to understand what makes them tick, what help them be successful. And then when you have those rare moments, learn from them. And if they want to be a mentor, take it. And I had some folks very early on in my career who were willing to accept that role and who taught me a ton about, business operations and giving guidance as to kind of pitfalls to watch out for and those kinds of things. And I think as I take all of that learning and look at my own individual success, in the not-for-profit space, dealing with, charities and community-facing organizations, all the way up to the Chamber of Commerce. I think the key to my success, if I were to boil it down to one thing, is understanding the work that we do and the nuance of those things. But I think for me, what has been a driver is keeping the main thing, and that is people. No matter what we do, in a community-based organization, whether it be a chamber or another nonprofit, people matter, and people matter most. The work that we do, the impact that we have, the things that we strive for, are all going to lead to touching someone's life. And if we can be great stewards of what we have today to not only serve people and build them up and edify them and make them the best that they can be, we then become the best that we can be. What's best, or even better, is that we do that in a way that is going to secure a bright future for those who will come behind us. But at the core, it's people. The stuff is the stuff. I don't care if we're selling ice cream or you're building, a product, you're selling cars, or you're building a roof. The center of that is people.
It's funny, and I'm sitting here thinking of a story indirectly focused on something that happened to me, or I was exposed to, had an opportunity to learn a little different vein, but the same thing. My grandfather and grandmother started a business, multiple businesses, but here in Houston, they moved here. They actually bought an existing business, but then expanded it. And my grandfather's position on a daily basis was to stand at the front counter. It's a laundry and dry cleaning business. And for most of the day, not all day, but most of the morning, the evenings, busy times, do 80% of your business. And he would greet people as they came in. He didn't wait on them. He had 3 or 4 people here.
Absolutely.
And he got to know them. And it's the same thing. It's people.
Yeah.
And I'm all around as a kid, right? And I'm listening and watching. And he's also training these people over here.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure motivating them by just being there. And he was a good businessman. But I used to stand there or sit around the corner there, and you could hear him.
Yeah.
I mean, that bell would go on the front door. Later found out in later years that counter, based on the volume of business, when you took completion into consideration, was probably one of the busiest or the busiest counter at a certain point in time in the whole country.
Wow.
And I attribute a lot of it to him.
Absolutely.
And dealing with people.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to have the processes in place. You have to have a great product. I mean, and that is, one of the things that we do internally. We talk about striving for excellence, making sure that every time we encounter a member at the chamber, they walk away with a 5-star experience. We are providing the highest level of service to them that we possibly can. But when you look at that, those connectivities, I'll give you an example. Earlier in my career, I ran a rural transit system. That was part of my role. I was over an 8-county transit system in central Kentucky, which we were going into hollers and up, mountains and that kind of thing. And when I got there, morale was not great. We were underperforming terribly. We had, not all of the best equipment and that. And so I took my role was that we were going to change that. Our excellence will be reflected in great equipment, a team that looks like they are ready to serve, and, shifting to things like uniforms, which was for some reason crazy controversial, but looking at those things. But the messaging to those folks was different, I hope. In that moment, I know that it was, because, as I said, there's very low morale. Folks seem to just be bus drivers or dispatchers, or, it was like, it was just a job. And I remember about a month and a half in, and we called together a staff meeting. So we had just under 100 people sitting in a room. And, you go through the whole speech of, I'm new, we're going to turn some things around, we're going to do things rah, 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 rah. And, there were some folks who were sitting there, and I said, I know some of you are hearing things and you might not be okay with it. And it's okay if you choose to leave, but we're going to be great. And the reason we're going to be great is because you guys, each one of you sitting in this room, are the most important people in this organization. And I would dare say, in each of the communities that we serve. And some of the folks looked up. I said, you wake up every morning with one mission: to get someone's child, parent, grandmother, aunt, uncle to dialysis, to a doctor's appointment, to school. You're delivering the most precious cargo that exists in our community with the highest level of integrity and service, creating a better life for them. Who else can claim that? And from that day forward, you saw people think about what they did differently. You saw them and you do the reinforcement and encourage them along the way, but it's connecting with the people in that room to connect their hearts to the people that they served. Made a huge transformation. And so I will always say, no matter what it is that we are doing, if we can understand that at our core, we need to be people relating to people, then we can have success in a number of ways. But without it, you're going to struggle.
Right, which is one of the interesting things that I bump into from time to time, because I open myself up to someone's wants to go in business for themselves. And I've done a lot of mentoring, advising, consulting, and I do that over 20 some years now. And someone will say, well, I'm thinking about starting a business. Sure, cup of coffee. I'll give you an hour. It doesn't cost you a dime. And they'll go through their ideas and I'll ask them. But then one of the key things I want to know is, what do you feel about people?
Yeah.
Because some of us just really don't want to be around people,
Yeah.
or can't, well, they got this business idea. And over half the people I talk to in those conversations, I try to dissuade from going into that business or business in general, but in that particular field where they've got to be out front, say like my grandfather. I mean, he was very good at what he did. He loved it. He loved people. And so it worked. But yeah, we have a lot of people in business. So I'm always encouraged, and you can see me smiling now because I love those conversations anyway. Selfishly, it's I love to hear and see people get excited.
Absolutely. And, and there are tons more, when you start digging into the operational side of things and, being fiscally responsible and making sure that you're making wise decisions, really understanding your industry sector and what the factors are that are influencing you right now and that are potential hazards going down the road. Reading a lot, never stopping learning. That's been a key to my success. Particularly as a guy, I'll say this to all the dudes out there, recognizing that at no one moment in our lives do we really know everything, even about the thing that we have studied and, have committed ourselves to. There's something else to learn, or there's another industry that's doing something really well that you can glean something from and go, how can I make this apply to my situation? And I think as we continue to do that, we're as a team right now at the Chamber, we're reading a book together and we're kind of going through step by step what the author is talking about and how does that stuff apply to us? And these business principles that he's talking about, and whether it be a worldwide global delivery company or a local retail establishment, how can we take some of that stuff and use it to serve our folks better, to serve our members better, to really ingrain ourselves in what we're doing here? So always continue to learn and to try to grow.
No, it's critical. There's no doubt about it. Let me ask you this. In today's world, because you're dealing with business people every day in a number of different ways, from your perspective, what is the main challenge that these business people are facing today?
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking today, I think a lot of the challenge is uncertainty. It all boils down to uncertainty, to looking at the factors around us and wondering what the influence will be. Inflation is, we can debate it on the news all day, but the bottom line is when somebody walks into the grocery store this evening, eggs are higher than they were 2 years ago or 3 years ago. And so they're trying to understand that they're looking at the stock market, they're looking at economic indicators, and they seem to be all right, but it just doesn't feel good in in other ways. And I think that uncertainty is just kind of keeping people off balance. It's like you said, it's true what you said in the open. Like some folks they're like, I've got it and it's looking really good, but I think I'm going to hold and not spend right now. So sales are down, but customer satisfaction is up. It's all of these kind of competing indicators that I think is a real challenge for now. I think the very, and I won't say it's different, but the advancements in technology that we are experiencing are, I think, another challenge. There's so much that it's just hard to keep up. It's tough to know just where you fit. There's, again, the unknown with some of the AI, and it's and things in that technological space that people are being bombarded with all types of information, from this is the best thing to ever happen to stop it now. The robots are going to take over and kill us all. What's the happy medium? Like, how do we make this practical? At the end of the day, we are approaching it in kind of a phased way and looking at it. But we had a speaker here in the Woodlands last year that we brought in, that he made a point that I said, you're kind of onto something. and the point that he made, he was talking about AI. He said, this is great technology that is incredibly intelligent, but it's still artificial. The true intelligence comes from the people who program it. And so for us to understand the technology and then put the inputs in that are going to make it most effective for us is the key. So take a breath. We're still critical to the process. And I thought, you're kind of onto something there. So
There's no doubt about it. It is, but it does, and I go back to your original word, uncertainty. It does create this aura of uncertainty that kind of hangs over everything.
for sure.
And young and old, men, women, children, it pops up everywhere.
Yes.
And the worst place in the world, in my opinion, to go right now is to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Because it pops you.
Yep.
I'm not looking down on grocery stores, but it's where everybody kind of has to go at some point.
Yeah.
And that's where we feel it and see it. But anyway, let's kind of, as we come down to the end of the program, let's talk about some of the programs you guys. You did a great job talking about the business summit, but I know you got an economic outlook conference, which is a big thing in the community.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived here almost 10 years, and it's become, when it happens, people are talking about it.
Yes.
And then you've recently had a candidate forum. I'm impressed. There's, when you go on your website, all kinds of neat things going on.
Yes.
Share with us whatever you'd like about some of those upcoming programs.
Absolutely. And, when I look at our programming and as it continues to evolve, it's really about informing, educating, and empowering business leaders to make the best decisions that they can make in their businesses and in their community, right? So we're doing things like at a candidate forum. We just did that last week. That is presenting the folks who are proposing to lead our community and asking them the questions relative to business. What is your stance on taxes? How do you talk about this or that? So that, again, the unseen work of the chamber, delivering information to business leaders to make great decisions, so that that one, the business voice matters. And when you walk into the polls, you walk in these multiple roles. You walk in as citizen, you walk in as community member, you walk in your job role. But, as a business leader, there's that voice inside of you. And so you have to understand those candidates in the context as well of how do they feel about business? Where do they stand on this, free enterprise market that we all operate in? So I think, we're doing things like that. Each month, we're bringing together experts, whether it be at our business advocacy council, our innovation council, those kinds of meetings to bring in speakers or other formats, panels, interactive sessions to talk about those key issues and to continue to educate and inform. And then I think it builds up to things like the Economic Outlook Conference, where we're going to get together on February 6th of 2026. I can't believe that we're already saying 2026.
That's right.
But we'll bring together the community there to bring in experts, high-level speakers to talk about what is the outlook for the next year, the next 3 years. What are some of the things that are going really well? What are some things that might be challenges? How can your business adjust? What should you be looking to adjust to? So we're talking about everything, bringing in speakers from everywhere from the Federal Reserve Bank to local CEOs or regional CEOs who run big companies and are looking at the indicators, which is a huge benefit for small business, right?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have a team of economists in a small business. Well, some of these guys do. That's, those are some of the
They
people
don't have access to it.
Yeah.
Easily.
They have access to the information and they're willing to come out and share. So, we'll do some of that as well. But throughout the year, all of those types of programs to make sure that our businesses are being educated and informed.
And again, they have access to resources.
Yes. Yes.
We're going to take a short break now, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll be right back with you.
Car enthusiasts of Conroe, FM 104.5 and 106.1 Lone Star Community Radio invites you to shift into gear every Monday from 1 to 2 with Cruising Car Club Talk with Robert and Randy for news on all things automotive in the greater Houston-Conroe area. Can't make a live show? We've got you covered. You can find all of our uncut content, including full episodes on Spotify, iTunes, Play Store, YouTube, Facebook, and irlonestar.com. Again, that's Mondays 1 to 2, Cruising Car Club Talk with Robert and Randy. See you there.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, hope you've enjoyed this conversation with Mr. Aaron Cox. A couple things, though, I'd like to touch as we have a little bit of time back. Communication. You mentioned that early on in our conversation, how important it was for the Chamber to communicate, to make itself available, if you will, to the business community and the community at large. One of the things I found when I went to your website was a program called Between the Trees Business Talk.
Yes.
And I said, you're using Facebook to communicate, not just posting something, but having a meeting, discussion time for people to get on, I guess, in FaceTime and talk about important topics. I looked at some of the folks that were headlining the show, so to speak, and I said, boy, that's a communication tool. I mean, I'm familiar with Facebook, but that's what grandparents do with grandchildren, right? I had never seen it used, and I'm sure it is in a business light. What brought about the utilization of that tool that's so readily available to everyone?
For sure. You know, it's I think a couple of things. One, because you can use the live to stream in real time and have that conversation, and folks can kind of lock in each week at the same time, but then it automatically records it. And so you can save it to your Facebook and, you know, folks can go back and watch, and they're kind of archived for you there. And we want that chronicled, you know, and maintained so that if folks see an episode and they want to go back, they have that chance. Or if, you know, they're just kind of scrolling through, you know that at some point we have had someone who may speak to the issue that you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I was impressed as someone who invests a lot in communications, marketing, and giving people. Today, it's all about options.
Sure.
All the options to connect.
Yeah.
You know, this show is a live radio show that converts to a podcast, video cast, and is out there available
Right.
For up to 2 years. And I mean, I think there are other ways that we can make it available that would fit.
Sure.
But if you're a grandparent or even a parent, you probably already know how to FaceTime.
Yeah.
And so the technology should be easy to use, so to speak.
Absolutely. And on Facebook Live, I mean, you're just logging into your regular Facebook and you go to our page and it pops up right at 10:30 on Wednesdays. But, you know, communication is one of those challenges, both in just reaching out to people right now, as well as in the marketing game. You know, you talk about all the social media and the websites, and it used to be either you went to the yellow pages, you looked on the internet, you know, and Googled something, or, you know, you had a TV commercial or a radio commercial. Those were your outlets. Now you're having to try to reach segments. And, you know, I have 2 kids, and so I'll say something about Facebook and they're like, Dad, nobody goes to Facebook anymore. You know, so if you're trying to reach that demographic, it's Instagram or one of these other mediums, and, you know, finding that fit for your business to say, who is my true market and
Right.
where do they live? Because I know some people say that you can. I don't know how you can do them all and do them all effectively.
Right. Well, and one thing I've found is that if you can take, say you've got a clip, I call them clips, in this case, a video clip,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes you can carry that other places.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it takes a skill to actually get it placed, but
Yep.
still, I try to make messages that are repeatable, that can be taken, because it's like you wake up every day and there's some other, Twitter changes names. They just constant. We've got 1 or 2 minutes left. Please share with our listeners about the goals for the chamber. What is the main goal that you have as a leader of the chamber going forward?
I think the main goal is to be an excellent organization that is protecting the interests of local businesses, providing prosperity for our community, to be that spoke in the wheel that helps us to be the absolute best that we can possibly be, and to set the stage for our posterity. Generally, when I'm giving a speech, one of the things that I ask all of our audiences to do, and for all of us to think of each day, is how do we leave a legacy? Because that is critical. Looking back and knowing that our children and our children's children enjoy the beauty of what we have today. And so if we can be a small part of that as an organization, that is my hope.
Well, that's a lofty goal, so to speak, but I like it. It makes a lot of sense, both to me as a businessman and personally. There's no doubt about it. Aaron, I can't thank you enough for taking the time
It's my pleasure.
to talk about these various topics. Very, very educational. If people want to get in touch with you, or to ask a question or connect, or someone in your organization, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way for me, you can reach out via email, aaron.cox@woodlandschamber.org, or call the Woodlands Chamber direct. You can check us out on our website, woodlandschamber.org, and go to the staff page. You can reach any one of our staff, or you can call the main number and give us a call, and we'll be right on top of it.
Well, I encourage business people, whatever business community in Montgomery County and beyond that you're located in, connect with your local chamber. I mean, it is important. If you want to be known as a successful, well-run business, if you're happy just to open up every morning and close up every night, and I appreciate that. Everyone needs to figure out what their level of success is, in my opinion, and then try to meet it. So, but if you really want to connect with the community and volunteer, whatever you want to do, it's there. It's your choice. So reach out to the Woodlands Area Chamber of Commerce if they serve your area where your business is or that you sell into, and connect with them. Closing out today's program, again, thank you, Aaron, for coming and talking about the Woodlands Area Chamber of Commerce and some great business advice as well. And ladies and gentlemen, please put on your calendar to join us again next Monday right here on irlonestar.com, 11 o'clock. We'll be back. And again, as I mentioned earlier, look for a copy of the video podcast of today's show on the Weekly Business Hour page. You can find it on websites like irlonestar.com, onebestconsult.com, and Facebook and YouTube, and on and on and on. I think it's worth listening to, and we always deeply appreciate you sharing it with other business people that you know. And as I always close the show, until next week, stay engaged and always keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thanks.
Even